Yeah, it's there. Is that better? All right, we'll go with it. You guys hear me? Yeah. All right. So Numbers chapter 22. Gotta turn the clicker on. All right, so we got a quick little outline. The Israelites are camped at the border of the Amorites and the Moabites, and it's near Pasag, or Pasag, yeah. And then in the next few chapters, this story is going to continue for the next few chapters, right? Chapter 22, 23, 24, and 25. We're going to meet Balak the king in this chapter. He's the king of Moab, and he will send for a diviner named Balaam, right? This diviner is a pagan prophet used by God. He's actually going to give a prophecy that we'll get to in a few chapters down the road about Christ, right? He does say that a star will come out of Jacob and a scepter will rise out of Israel. That's actually in this chapter, in 24:17, my bad. So the prediction is the coming of Christ, right? Yet without question, the New Testament casts him as a false prophet, a greedy prophet. And they speak of the error of Balaam. And we're going to talk about that tonight. And then when they talk about him, they always talk about him in the negative. Maybe you got some of that from this story that we're going to read tonight, right?
Who are they talking about?
Balaam, the prophet. His name in the scriptures is mentioned 59 times, and he gets more time. He gets the next 4 chapters. He gets mentioned in the next 4 chapters a lot. But he's mentioned in Deuteronomy, Joshua, Nehemiah, and the prophet Malachi, all from the Old Testament. And also in the New Testament, we have Peter talk about him, Jude talks about him, and even the book of Revelation. Let me put that into a little more context for you. He gets more reference than Mary does in the whole book of the Bible. That's the mother of Jesus, if you all remember, right? Or better yet, even the apostles. There's more spoken about him in the next few chapters in those books that I mentioned than any of those. So he does play an important role, right? But he's not a role model. How about that? Right? So we don't want to be like this guy. All right. So verses 1 through 5. Who wants to start the reading?
All right. The children of Israel set forward and pitched in the plains of Moab on this side of Jordan by Jericho. And Balak, the son of Zephyr, saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites. And Moab was scorn afraid of the people because they were many. And Moab was distressed because of the children of Israel. And Moab said unto the elders of
Midian. Yep.
How shall this company lick up all that are round about us, as the ox lick up the grass of the fields? And Balak, son of Zephyr, was king of the Moabites at that time. He sent messengers, therefore, unto Balaam, the son of
Beor,
to
Pethor,
which is by the river of the land of the children of his people, to call him, saying, Behold, there is a people come out from Egypt. Behold, they cover the face of the earth, and they abide over against me.
They're sitting next to me. Yep, settling next to me. Right? All right, so the tribe moves in again. They're on the move, right? Because they got a place to go. They're getting to the promised land. We saw that in the last chapter. And now they come to this area of Moab where Balak is the king. And he's afraid of them. Anybody catch why?
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them, yep. Now, does anybody know where Pethor is? It's ancient Babylon, right? The Bible, if you read about this location, there's a lot said about this location. It's near a river, right? Anytime you see those two words, it's near the river, it really means a major river. And it's not the Nile, but the Euphrates. That's what it's talking about. So and he is with the sons of his people. That phrase comes from Mesopotamia, right? So in this time, the cradle of civilization, if you would, was that area. Ancient Babylon, or today Iraq, in the Tigris or Euphrates River Valley. So that's what it's talking about. Now this area is also famous for a battle that's fought here, one from the biblical history. Anybody know? It's in the Kamesh area. Anybody know what battle was fought there? I'll give you. Nebuchadnezzar fights this battle. The Babylonians go against Pharaoh, right? Who wins?
The one says, let my people go.
No. That was Moses. Yeah. The Babylonians win. Nebuchadnezzar wins, right? That enables Nebuchadnezzar to take over the world, basically, of that time. And he destroys Jerusalem a little while later and takes Daniel to be captive in his buddies. That's where Balaam is from, just so you guys understand where he's from. That's kind of the setting for these scriptures. All right, verse 6.
Come now, therefore, I pray thee, curse me this people, for they are too mighty for me. Peradventure I shall prevail, that we may smite them, and that I may drive them out of the land. For I wot that he whom thou blessest is blessed, and he whom thou cursest is cursed.
Wow. So we see the king say something pretty important here. So here we see Balaam has a reputation, does he not? He's famous. He's well known in the area. He's influential. He's a spiritualist, right? He could speak a curse or a blessing and it would happen. Or at least that's what's believed, right? Balak wants him to curse Israel for him. Did you catch that? He wants Balaam to change the fate of Israel, if you will. Balak sees this big group and thinks they're too big of an enemy, right? They're too big for him to take on. And he realizes something. He can't beat them physically. He needs to beat them spiritually. So he knows this is going to be a spiritual battle, and tools and weapons of the spiritual. Someone that can guide him through this. That's Balaam, the diviner, right? In this day, it was believed that if one nation defeated another nation, the stronger gods won. They defeated the inferior gods, right? So he was looking for that edge, if you will. Balak was wanting Balaam to help him in cursing Israel, right? He recognizes that it's a spiritual battle, and he's going to need some help. It's pagan, it's superstitious, right? But he's accurate, is he not? Yeah. Anyone here read Ephesians 6:2? Anybody remember what that is? For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, against the rulers of darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in heavenly places. Is that not what he was was being talked about there in Ephesians? Exact same thing. There is always a spiritual battle going on, right? But how often do we forget to go get help to fight those spiritual battles? We wander around on our own, do we not? Ephesians 6:12. Yep. So we need to seek for that spiritual help and help us in our battles to complete. And if you complete that whole reading, the armor of God is there, right? You're supposed to put that on all day, every day, right? All right, verses 7 through 13. All right, Gary.
spake unto him the words of Balaam. And he said unto them, Watch here this night, I will bring you word again, as the Lord shall speak unto me. And the princes of Moab obeyed the commandment. And God came unto Balaam and said, What men are these with thee? And Balaam said unto God, Balak the son of Zippor, king of Moab, hath sent me, or sent unto me, saying, Behold, there is a people come out of Egypt, which covereth the face of the earth. Come now, curse me then, peradventure I shall be able to overcome them and drive them out. And God said unto Balaam, Thou shalt not go with them, thou shalt not curse the people, for they are blessed. And Balaam rose up in the morning, and said to the princes of Balak, Get you into your land, for the Lord refuseth to give me leave to go with you.
Yep. Mine says permission. My version says permission to go with you. So when you read this section, you notice something about that God says to Balaam. You may have missed it in between the lines there a little bit, but God tells Balaam, Israel, those people that Balak wants you to curse, those are my people. I'm blessing them. Now, did we hear just a minute ago that Balak thought that if Balaam blessed or cursed, it happened? God's saying, that's my line, not yours, right? He's saying, I am blessing these people, and I'm not giving you permission to go.
You know, God himself said, and I don't remember where this was at, but I
Mhm.
remember the word said, I'll bless those that bless you,
Mhm.
and curse those that
Yep.
curse you.
Yep, that's. Now, another thing that jumps out at you. Did you notice the word Lord was in capital letters in there? Do you guys remember from our study and why? Or what that was?
Talk about God, right?
It's talking about Yahweh. Yes. Yes, it's a tentagrammation. Is that right? So basically, they're taking Yahweh, YHVWH, or there's a couple different ways it could be spelled, but Yahweh, the covenant name, right? That's the covenant name. So why would Baal use this name? Simply put, he's a diviner. He knows who he's talking to. He wants to twist God into doing what he wants him to do, right? So Balaam is an oracle priest from Mesopotamia, if I could get the word out. He's a Baru, or an oracle priest, right? They believed that he could tell the future. And they believed it by, he would take the entrails of animals and look at them and jiggle them and do things with them. And it moved this way, it meant that. And it moved that way, it meant that, right? They would look at the sky and the stars and be able to tell things, right? They're soothsayers, so to speak, right? They could look at cloud formations the same way. So this is what he's using. But then God speaks to him. But it doesn't say Yahweh speaks to him, does it? It says God speaks to him. He used the covenant name, but he's not part of the covenant, is he? He's not an Israelite. Right? So when the Bible describes the Lord's interaction with him, it's God speaks to him without the covenant name. He tells him that you shall not go. You shall not curse them. They are blessed by me. God makes this point very clear, does he not? That he can't do this. Does anyone know why God's blessing Israel? Do we remember? It's the covenant, right? He made all the way back with Abraham. They're the chosen people. Now we know that they've done wrong and this, that, and everything else, right? We've read some of the story, but he's still blessing them.
It lasts right till this very day.
Yep, it will last continually.
And that's a good example. God never leaves them, they leave him.
Correct. God never left them. You are correct, Gary. They left him. All right, verses 14 through 18.
And the prince of Moab arose and went to Balak and said, Balaam refuses to come with us. Then Balak again sent princes more numerous and more honorable than they. And they came to Balaam and said to him, Thus says Balak, the son of Zippor, Please let nothing hinder you from coming to me. For I will certainly honor you greatly, and I will do whatever you say to me. Therefore, please come, curse this people for me.
Yep. One more.
Sorry. Then Balaam answered and said to the servants of Balak, Though Balak were to give me his house full of silver and gold, I could not go beyond the word of the Lord my God to do less or more.
Wow. So now he's claiming God. Did he not? That's interesting, right?
He got a little scared, didn't
He might give me, we'll see. Yeah. All right. So the next morning he tells those men to pack up and go home, right? The God told me I can't go, right? But did you catch what God said about the Israel nation? These people are blessed, right? Yes, they had issues. They fell short. They were judged, but God is still blessing them, as we said earlier. In Genesis chapter 12, verse 2 through 3, we see that what God said about these people, I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and will curse those who curses you, and in all of the families of the earth shall be blessed. So there's your answer, Larry.
I don't have a
Yep.
memory, but the verse down
Genesis
below,
3,
I remember.
at 12:3. Genesis 12:3.
And I would
Right.
think it too, where God made the chosen people, you just think all these protests against the Jews.
Mhm.
These people don't realize who they're messing with.
They don't realize that they're messing with God. God's chosen. Now Balak hears a no-go from Balaam. What's he do? He ups the ante, right? He sends more notable people. Does he not? I guess the other ones weren't notable at all. I don't know. I don't know, right? But he ups the ante. And he's not the one that mentions the gold and silver. Did you notice that? Who did? Balaam, right? Balaam does, and he says he wants a house full of it. So we see what Balaam's motive is now, do we not? He's playing them, if you will, right? He's negotiating up, right? We see that he's got some greed here, and a lot of people fall to greed. Some notable ones out of the Bible are Esau. He sold his birthrights for soup, right? Judas, 30 pieces of silver, just to name a couple, right? We will read in a later study of the Old Testament that the prophet Elisha, not Elijah, but Elisha, right, had a guy that worked for him, right? He's a servant. His name is Gesai, I think, something of that nature. It's Gehazz, if you want to know the spelling, right? And anyways, there's a guy, Neham, from Syria, who became ill with leprosy. He was a rich man. And his servant said, hey, you need to go see Elisha. And he could find a cure for you, right? Well, Elisha does some praying and tells him, you need to come to this Jordan River and bathe in it 7 times. Right? Dip in this river 7 times. Now, you guys know the Jordan River is like the Rio Grande, right? It's a little muddy stream. It's not really a mighty river like the Muskingum River, right? Yeah, throw that in there, right? But it's not impressive. So Neham has to come down to the Jordan and bathe in this puddle, right? But he goes, I got better water where I'm at. And Elisha says, you need to come here. So he does, right? And he bathes. And he's healed. And why did he have to come there? Faith, right? It's all about faith. But so after he's healed, he comes to Elisha and says, hey, I want to pay you. And Elisha says this, as the Lord lives and as I stand before him, I will receive nothing from you. So he wouldn't take a red cent, as we would say. But in the background, this Gisa guy hears all this. So after Elisha goes home, he goes after Naaman and tracks him down a ways down the road. Right? And he makes up some story about taking care of some young prophets, needing clothes, needing money. Right? And of course, since he was just healed, he's going to give him that. So he gives him the clothes and the stuff he asked for, and he gives him a silver talent. At that time, a silver talent, or today, a silver talent would be worth about $150,000. So that's a large sum of money, right? So when he gets back, Elisha sees him and questions him. Where you been? Well, I've been nowhere. What have you been doing? Oh, I'm doing nothing. It's interesting what Elijah really says. He says, was my heart not with you when you turned back and spoke to those men on the chariot? Now is not the time to amass silver and gold and a change of clothing. God has not called you to do that. That's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. Is this not what Balaam's doing? The exact same thing? Trying to get rich quick? Right? All right. So we know it's all about greed.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Doesn't it say I cannot go beyond
Mm-hmm.
the Lord?
Yeah.
I mean, that telling them he can't go?
Yes. I cannot go.
So what is it? The amount of gold in a full household says don't matter. I still can't go.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see how he goes.
Right now. So
He's trying.
can't trip it, nothing else yet.
Yeah. They haven't offered him the gold yet. Right?
Kind of act nonchalant about it.
Yeah, he's like, even if I get a whole house full of gold, I can't go. We'll see what God sees here in a minute. Don't worry. 19 through 21.
So you two please stay here tonight, that I may know what more the Lord will say to me. And God came to Balaam at night and said to him, if the men have come to call you, rise, go with them, but only do what I tell you. So Balaam rose in the morning and saddled his donkey and went with the princes of Moab.
Oh. So Balaam tells Balak to stay here tonight, right? He tells those guys to stay here tonight. And he just thinks a little bit more time, I can twist God's arm, right? I can get him to say what I want him to say. Let me go do this, right? But God knows he wants to go, does he not? Did he not harden Pharaoh's heart? Did he not give him into what he was wanting? So God makes a way for him to go. He says, you can go, but there's one condition. You got to say what I say. Now, we might be quick to judge Balaam here. After all, God told him not to go, right? But the Apostle Paul prayed 3 times about a thorn in his flesh, did he not? So, did he not get his answer? Did Balaam not get his answer? Right? My grace is enough for you. All you need is my grace. That's what Paul was told. Right? So I don't want you to miss that principle. That there's a time to pray and a time to move. And Balaam's not paying attention to this. He's trying to move without praying. He did pray. He got his answer. He's ignoring it. And now he's going to go do what he shouldn't do, right?
Sometimes,
Say what?
like we do sometimes.
Like we do sometimes. We do this a lot too. So I'll show you an incident with Moses, right? that there's a time to pray and there's a time to move, I guess is what my point is. In Exodus 14, Moses has got the Red Sea in front of him and then Egyptian army behind him, right? They're closing in. And what Moses says, he says, stand here and see the salvation of the Lord. He will fight for you. But we often don't read the next line. And does anybody know what that verse says? It says, why do you cry to me? Tell the children of Israel to go forward. That's when Moses puts the staff up, right? So there is a time to move and a time to pray. And Balaam's kind of got this a little out of whack, right? Balaam does saddle his donkey, right? And goes with him. Oh, I'm not keeping up. Yep. So he does go with him. He saddles up his donkey and starts to leave. Verse 22.
But God angered with Kindle because he went, and the angels of the Lord took his stand in the way at his adversaries. Now he was riding on the donkey, and his two servants were with him.
My Bible says, and God's anger was aroused because he went. Right? So why would the Lord be mad at him when he just told him to go? It's because God can see into his heart the reason why he is going. Right? God said, okay, you can go, but your reason for going is wrong. And you're going to do what you shouldn't do. Right? He's not represent God, but rather trying to manipulate him, I guess is a better way to say it. It's all about his greed.
God told him to only speak what I speak, but God knows in Balaam's heart that once he gets to the mountain overlooking Israel, he's going to try.
He's going to try.
Curse. Yes, that's why God's going to teach him a little life lesson here.
Yeah, he's about to teach him a lesson.
See, none of that we know yet.
No, we don't. We'll get to it. We'll get to it, right? All right, verse 23 through 25.
Now the donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way as his sword was drawn in his hand, and the donkey turned aside out of the way and went into the field. So Balaam struck the donkey to turn her back onto the road. And then the angel of the Lord stood in the narrow path between the vineyards, with the wall on his side and the wall on that side. And when the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, she pushed herself against the wall and crushed Balaam's foot against the wall, so he struck her again.
Wow.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's as far as you got to go. Yeah. So the angel of the Lord was sent. Wow. Now, this donkey, I find it interesting that this donkey can see the angel of the Lord, but the seer can't see the angel of the Lord, right? I think that's funny.
Smart enough not to mess around, do you?
Yeah, the donkey got out of the way. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. But just a little bit on angels so we understand how powerful they are. In Psalms 103:20, blessed the Lord, you his angels who excel in strength, who do his word, heeding the voice of his word, right? So they have power, they have strength. In Isaiah 37, we see an angel protect Hezekiah, right? Just as he poured out his heart, they both prayed, and an angel killed 135,000 Assyrian soldiers that night. Yeah. Right? And then we connect this with what Peter did in the garden. You guys all remember Peter whips out his sword and says, I'm going to, this. And what does Christ say to Peter? Put it away, Peter. Do you not know that I can call 72,000 angels if I want them to defend me? All I can say is wow, because we know one angel can kill 185,000 at least. Now you get 72,000. Here's another thing. You go to the book of Revelation. Angels pour out all the wrath, do they not? So this donkey, to your point, was pretty smart to get out of the way of the angel, was he not? Yeah. All right, 26 through 28.
Lord's anger was kindled, and he smote the donkey with a staff. And the Lord opened the mouth of the donkey, and she said unto Balaam, What have I done unto thee, that thou hast smitten me these 3 times?
Wow. So this poor donkey's taking a beating, is he not? Or is she not? I guess it's a female. So what I find interesting is God opens the donkey's mouth to speak, right? And this donkey says, in a human language, even better, right? Is, hey, what have I done? What have I done, right? She's like, what have I done for you to hit me 3 times, right? Now keep in mind, this oracle priest who can see everything and see the future is sitting on top of this donkey, right? But he can't see him yet, right? He doesn't know what's going on. But yet, he doesn't find it interesting that a donkey's talking to him. And it's going to get more interesting as we read on. All right, 29 through 32.
And Balaam said unto the donkey, Because thou hast mocked me, I would there was a sword in my hand, for now would I kill thee. And the donkey said unto Balaam, Am I not I then donkey upon thou which thou hast read, written ever since I was thine unto this day? Was I ever what to do so unto thee? And he said, Nay. Then the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way, and his sword drawn in his hand, and he bowed down his head and fell flat on his face. 33. And the angel of the Lord said unto him, Whereof hast thou smitten thine donkey these 3 times? Behold, I went out to withstand thee, because thy was in perverse before me.
Yep. I have come out to stand against you because thy way is perverse before me, is what the angel says. All right. So, this is a little odd to say the least, right? I mean, think about this. We've got a conversation going on between a man and a donkey, right? And they're going back and forth. They're literally talking back and forth, right? But then the Lord opens Balaam's eyes to see that angel. And what's he do? He bows down to this angel, right? He fell down to his face. And then the angel asks Balaam the same question the donkey did he not? Why'd you smite me 3 times? But then he gives him some clarification. To stand against you because your way is perverse before me. Wow. Something's wrong, right? I think you could gather that. In the New Testament, refers to the way of Balaam in a manner in which he lived his life. His motivation, his value systems, as they discussed, were all greed, right? In 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 15, we see what Peter says about Balaam. They have forsaken the right way and gone astray, for they follow the way of Balaam, the son of Beor, who loved wages of unrighteousness. Verse 16, but he was rebuked for his iniquity, and a dumb donkey speaking with a man's voice restrained the madness of a prophet.
He wasn't dumb then.
He wasn't too dumb, was he? Yep. So God got him. God told him not to go, right? But he went. Well, not only that, but he told him, here's what you have to say. But he's going to say whatever he feels like to give him the financial gain. And that's what God saw, as Don pointed out, right? So that is the way of Balaam. So when they talk about the way of Balaam, this is what they're talking about. All right, 33 and 34.
The donkey saw me and turned aside from me these 3 times. If she had not turned aside from me, surely I would have killed you by now and let her live. And Balaam said to the angel of the Lord, I have sinned, for I did not know you stood in the way against me. Now therefore, if it displeases you, I will turn back.
Oh, all of a sudden, he wants to turn back. Well, we know he's not going to, right? He's got too much motivation to go forward. He's got too much greed, right? And the Lord is now going to use Balaam, even though because he's bent on his wanting to go, the Lord's going to use him. And the other thing I thought it was interesting out of this was he realized he sinned. Did you notice that? He's not repenting, but he's realized he sinned.
And really, he should have kept a real hard thought. If the angel said, I'll kill you, the donkey,
Yeah. Yes, he did say, I'll kill you.
that donkey was innocent of all things.
Yep.
It wasn't his fault.
No, it wasn't the donkey's fault, that's for sure. All right. Finish this chapter up, 35 through 41.
And the angel of the Lord said to Balaam, go with the men, but speak only the word that I tell you. So Balaam went on with the prince of Balak. When Balak heard that Balaam had come, he went out to meet him at the city of Moab, on the border formed by the Aram
Yep.
at the extremity of the border. And Balak said to Balaam, did I not send you to call you? Why did you not come to me? Am I not able to honor you? Balaam said to Balak, behold, I have come to you. Have I now any power of my own to speak anything, the words that God put in my mouth that I must speak? Then Balaam went with Balak, and they came to, there you go. And Balaam sacrificed ox and sheep and sent for Balaam and for the prince who were with him. And in the morning, Balak told Balaam, who brought him up to Baal, and from there he saw a friction of the people.
Yep. The extent of the people, my Bible says. All right, so basically, they have some nice gestures there. They greet each other. They're happy that, well, Balak's happy that Balaam came, right? And they're going to have a little celebration. But did you know why they needed to go to a high place? It's in that time they believed that the higher they got, the closer they were to their gods, the more powerful their activity on earth would be. You would have a closer connection to your God. And in this region, Baal, right, was their god over this region, and it was a place of honor for Baal on this mountain. So that's why they went. All right. So a little bit of application. We've learned that you can follow God's commandments, but with the wrong heart, right? Or the wrong intent. Baal waited for the Lord's permission to go to Balak, but then something in his heart wasn't right. Maybe he coveted the riches of Balak that was offered him. That's what we believe, based on what we read. God is pleased with us when our obedience flows from a pure heart, right? Jesus really emphasized this when he taught in Galilee, in Jerusalem. He regularly warned the Pharisees, the scribes, the Sadducees, because while they strictly adhered to God's law, their hearts, their motivation actions were self-centered or full of pride, were they not? And lastly, we need to do regular checkups of our heart, right? And evaluate our motives and our actions, especially our religious actions, because that is where Satan comes and does most of his deceptive work, is the almost correct, the almost there area, right? As Don likes to put it. All right, questions? Got it? Got your sheets out? Where is Pethor? Yes, ancient Babylon, Tigris River, Euphrates Valley. All right. What's Balak's occupation? He's the king of Moab. You are correct. You know, he's the king of Moab. There's two B's in this one, so it makes it a little tough. But that's why I did this. What is the occupation of
Fortune teller.
Balaam? Yeah. Well, he's a supernaturalist, an oracle priest, a seer, a fortune teller, yada, yada, yada. All things not God, right? What is meant by when they call the people, or the Israelite people, these people?
God's people.
God's people?
Chosen ones.
Yeah, they're part of the Abraham covenant. Yep. They are blessed by God. Yep. And lastly, why was the Lord angry with Balaam after he said he could go? His heart wasn't right. Yeah, his heart wasn't right. His greed, right?
Because he was greedy and proud of himself.
Yeah, he was all about himself. Yep. All right, got any other questions? No.
Can you imagine him when the donkey talked?
It didn't sound like he was that shocked.
Is there any significance why the donkey was a girl or a boy?
Not that I gathered, no, to answer that question, but I guess I could try to research that.
Yeah, it specified it was a she.
It did specify it was a she. Maybe female donkeys listen to the God better. I don't know. All right, who's closing?